So going through your land coverage and where all these uses are again. So you're, breaking it down even a little bit more simplistic to your buildings, your parking, and your roads. This is everything else: berms, buffers, backyards, farms, whatever. So how you use your buildings or your land has a correlation to your potency. Also, you got water, but water's non-taxable. So on the left is your use, on the right is your value. Notice the footprint value difference from buildings on the left, how much it physically takes up to how much it financially produces. The other thing to keep an eye on there is your parking. Um, you got more parking than roads, which is kind of wild. We typically don't see that, but that's what you did to yourself. Now your roads are going to be a cost. So you're actually in the hole about, let's call it point, like, was that 4? I can't do the math right now. 0.04 billion is a negative that you're paying for those roads. Your parking is only bringing you like uh, 0.4 billion in value. So it's not a whole lot of value when you're getting 2.4 billion out of your buildings. So let's just focus on that. Again, this is your impervious surface, which water doesn't go through. So you have to build stormwater to deal with buildings, roads, and parking. So this is how we got the data for this. And this is kind of how they stack up. And then this is the net value of them side by side. So to turn it from these two, another way that might be easier for you to see is if we do it in a stacked bar. So per person, you have about 800 square feet of road dedicated to each person. You've got 900 square feet of parking dedicated to each person in your community, and about 1,100 square feet of buildings. When you look at this financially, this is how it looks financially. So you're in a deficit with the roads. You've got parking at about $4 a square foot, but you're bringing about $19 a square foot out of your buildings and value. So back to that parking map that we did earlier. We just did this as sort of a puzzle or a game. Is like, let's just take your parking and let's look at one of these buildings right here at 325 Main. So Jonathan Angelito, who's the analyst on this project, just went ahead and painted all of your parking with those buildings, just as a thought experiment. We just dropped these buildings in, and to see what the value would be. So on the left is where you currently are, and this is the valuation of the way that you currently are, with about 25 million in parking and about 5 million in building and 5 million in parking. If you just drop some buildings in there, and you could still have parking, but just if you got more buildings built in, you could bump it up to almost double it, about 49 million for building, and you'd be down to about 1.7 million in parking. So we did this as sort of an X-ray or a CAT scan of your downtown, just so that you could see how much parking you have in your downtown area. And I know everybody likes to complain about parking. You're not alone in that. Every city that we've been to. But you've got to realize that trade-off when you start to take all of that productive land and make it parking. It's just not going to bring that value to your community. But you're about 44% of your used land in your downtown is about parking. We did it for the south side as well. It's not as bad. It's about 33%. And you can see it's heavily concentrated up toward downtown. Okay, so to use it by comparison, y'all are about 118,000 people. We have a bunch of different cities, and I just want to give you an example of how you stack up. But this is your land area, about 35,000 acres. This is Eugene, Oregon, at about 22,000 acres. And check this out. There are actually more people. There are 175,000 people in less space than you. And I'm not using like a European example here. Also note their parking to roads ratio. They've got less parking than their roads versus you. And they've got more buildings down on the ground. So just kind of stacking it up, the land per person, y'all are double the land per person that they are. You're about 1.2 times the building area per person. You've got about 1.4 times more roads per person than they do. And here's the kicker. You have 2 times the parking spaces that they do. So again, it's trade-offs. Uh, they're going to have a value effect in your community as well. So yeah, it's just Asheville, like this is Asheville, kind of compared to High Point, and y'all are more populous than we are. You have more square miles than we do. You also have a lot higher, well, not much higher, but you're more dense than we are. But we have a significant higher value in our community. And again, this really isn't totally fair because we're a tourist town. But I couldn't resist showing this because our community. You've been here. We're not that big a city. We're smaller than you guys from a population standpoint. Well, significantly smaller at 95,000. But we just have a much more robust downtown. A lot of that was luck because we were broke.